Hello and welcome to The Gaggle, where we challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Samueli. With me today, of course, is Peter Lavelle, co-founder of The Gaggle and host of RT's talk show Crosstalk. Well, yesterday was a very dramatic day, to say the least, in the United States. We had the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, getting in touch with the chairman of the Joint Chiefs and instructing him not to take any orders from the President of the United States because he might want to trigger a nuclear war in his last few days. That a legislator gets in touch, with a member of the armed services was unconstitutional, to say the least. Then she declared that unless Vice President Mike Pence invokes the 25th Amendment, and that is to replace the president by himself, she will move ahead with the impeachment of Donald Trump. Later on in the day, she demanded that Donald Trump resign. Otherwise, she will bring articles of impeachment against Donald Trump. And as of this moment, it looks like the Democrats on Monday will introduce articles of impeachment against Donald Trump. And while the votes may not appear to be there in the Senate, it's not beyond the bounds of possibility. Trump has few friends in the Senate. I mean, we know that in the House, Pelosi has the votes. There was a tiny majority, but she'll get the votes for the impeachment. But in the Senate, you need 67 votes to succeed. The Democrats have 50 votes, so they need to pick off 17 Republicans. Probably an extremely tall order and not attainable, but not impossible. We already know that Ben Sasse has indicated that he's open to an impeachment. We know Lisa Murkowski has indicated she too is open to an impeachment. We know Romney voted last time for the conviction, rather, of the president. So the 67 votes is not outside of the realm of possibility.
Well, yeah, but if I could just interject before you continue, is that Mitch McConnell has to call a vote, and so he won't. Okay, so I mean, it's just moot.
Well,
no, I mean, this is just all theatrics. Okay, this is theatrics. Okay, this is
theatrics, but I wouldn't say that was entirely impossible that Mitch McConnell would call the vote. I mean, you have to sort of keep in mind. Well, we'll talk about this in the discussion. It's not wholly impossible. The other development was that big tech has stepped in a very big way. Twitter has now permanently banned Donald Trump from its platform. It has also deplatformed his various supporters. YouTube has done the same. And it's really all about ensuring that Trump has no means of communicating with his supporters. I should also add that the alternative to Twitter that has emerged in the recent past, called Parler, now Google Apps has said that it will not be possible any longer to get Parler on Google Apps, and Apple also said that unless Parler makes some drastic reforms, it will not be possible to get Parler on the Apple Store. So what's really happening here is the political media establishment. It wants to extirpate Trump from public life. And this is why I was saying that the McConnells, we can't guarantee anything McConnell will do. They are all absolutely united on one idea only. That is that Donald Trump does not run in 2024. How do you guarantee it? You guarantee it by impeaching him. And the other way is, of course, deny him a voice. All right, Peter, go ahead.
Well, impeach him again, okay? He's already been impeached once, okay? Okay, well, let's kind of go backwards here. I mean, with this McConnell thing, I don't think so. I think McConnell, even though McConnell only thinks about himself and his legacy of appointing or getting judges appointed, I don't think he wants to aggravate Trump's base to that extent, okay? And he'll just let the clock run out, All right. He'll just say, well, we didn't have time, and well, we'll never know what happened. All right. Um, as far as impeachment in the House, yeah, it you can do it relatively fast, but I mean that would be really fast. Okay, I mean if you just wrote up one simple sentence or in one article of impeachment, yeah, it's technically possible. Okay, and Nancy can call the schedule. So I mean that would be a virtue signaling. All right, and that's fine. But I don't see what impact it will have. I mean, what getting down to here is grievance politics. This is the alpha omega of it all right here. The Trump supporters are already aggrieved. Okay, so I don't know to what much more extent you can do it. And particularly now, we got 11 days or something like that before the transition. So yeah, I think they're going to make a lot of hay over the next 10, 11 days. We know that Trump isn't going to appear at the inauguration of Biden, but it looks like nobody's going to appear. I mean, this is just going to be virtual again. It's going to be really weird, but I guess it's just, an extension of last year. The real big news here that's terrifying to think about is the behavior of big tech, of Twitter, of Facebook, YouTube, Google. It's hard to walk this stuff back, all right? And why they believe that they should be the arbiters. Again, I say to all of these platforms, I thought you were just a platform, okay? I mean, isn't it obvious to everyone right now that the 230 cutout is just it's just been thrown away or taken advantage of here? I find it really outrageous that Jack Dorsey thinks that he has the right to determine what people can talk about. And what this is an attempt to reintroduce filters into expression, how people hear things, what they hear. I mean, there's a very interesting case. If you go back to 1969, Spiro Agnew, the Nixon's vice president, he had this. He was on the campaign trail, and he had this really scathing diatribe against legacy media at the time. So there were only 3 networks in the major papers, and they were all liberal. And from that point on, then you have talk radio, and then you have the advent of the internet. Now you have these platforms here, and every single step there, the filters have come off. That's why they're so angry with Trump. It's not what Trump might do; it's how he can make an impression upon his followers. 89 million of them. That's what they want to do. They want to be able to control that. The problem is that you just can't just take, you take the one guy out and everything changes. No, this increases the grievance meter immensely here, immensely. I mean, tell everybody the truth. Tell you right now is that I was thinking about getting on Parler today. And then I wake up this morning and I find out, and I won't repeat what you said, but it's like, whoa, now there's no way out here. Okay. This is tyrannical, in my opinion. And George, it was so different for us, given that we remember growing up Vietnam, and we remember Watergate, is that the press was on the side of truth and of the people. Now the press, I mean, comparatively, all right? Okay. But I mean, it was adversarial. I mean, now it's cultural, okay? Because there's not even really a political debate anymore. It's all culture right now. And so when you have these media companies saying you have to get rid of him. I mean, Kamala Harris called for this during the primaries. They got no traction. It didn't get, no one thought they would vote for her because she thought this was a good idea. It's a very bad idea, and it's going to backfire. I don't know how yet, because I think it still has to be played out. But I mean, we talked about this a couple days ago. Election law can be really complicated because it's from state to state, and it's what attorney generals can do. It's what the legislature can do. Is there an active governor or not? It's all complicated. Okay, you can understand it if you put time into it. This is a no-brainer. He has 89 million followers. He was elected president of the United States against all the odds. And then a couple of guys in Silicon Valley decides that, he doesn't have a right to freedom of speech. This is a really simple one. And what it'll do is it'll just increase his power. There's going to be a way around this. Okay, they're thinking about it, but they're the ones that's firing the shot across the bow. Then if you just let things simmer down, then it could take a different course. No, they're the ones that keep inflaming the situation. And I do want to talk to you about, this insurrection and it wasn't that at all. I really am offended people are using that term. Okay, we can go into that a little bit later.
Right.
Go ahead.
Okay. There is a real problem here with the personality of Donald Trump. All the politicians, Schumer, McConnell, Romney, Bernie Sanders, they look at this man who has been reviled and so on. He gets 75 million votes, and then he can get, without any effort at all on his part, he can get 500,000 to maybe 1 million people who showed up at Washington. This is a person who has enormous appeal. But Biden goes to give a speech somewhere, you get half a dozen people show up, in a car parking lot. They know this. They are absolutely petrified that he is going to come back in 2024. And they need to, they're absolutely determined to stop this. That's why I don't think, where I think I disagree with you a little bit, I don't think this is just simply grandstanding. Keep in mind, you can keep a trial going after he's already gone. You don't have to have it, you can keep a trial going. The goal here...
No, you can't, no. Once his...
No, I don't think that's true.
Once his term expires, you can't impeach him as president.
You can prevent him. You can do it in order to prevent him from running again.
That's not been tested. No, that's not been tested. That is so out there right now.
I don't think that's true. I've looked at, there's constitutional scholars who say, yes, you can continue the trial after he has already left, and precisely with the goal being... What
standing does the Congress have if he's a former president? Congress has no standing once his administration ends.
No, the crucial thing is to prevent him, to show that this is a person unsuitable ever to run for president again. So that's
not been tested, and I think it would be.
Well, I know it hasn't been tested because there haven't been that many impeachment, but that's the goal here. And incidentally,
well, I mean, this shows the flight from reality of these people.
Let's wait a bit.
Okay. I mean, you'll be able to knock me down with a feather if this is true, because I don't see how Congress has standing when you're talking about a formal official. Okay, now maybe there'll be some courts in New York.
No,
you want to go after him. Okay.
That's not the issue. The issue is to stop him from running again. To say that this is a person who can. Alan Dershowitz wouldn't have announced that I'm ready to act as counsel to the president during the impeachment trial if he didn't think that this is a serious business. He thinks that this is a real deal. I mean, he's already said this. I'm here.
In the Constitution, I've never heard of this idea.
There haven't been that many impeachments. Remember, only 3 presidents have actually been.
Andrew Johnson, Bill Clinton, Richard Nixon,
and then he wasn't impeached. That didn't actually.
There was right.
So Andrew Johnson, Bill Clinton, and obviously Donald Trump. In each case, it was still within their terms of office. This is coming to an end. I mean, look, the people who are pushing this are not fools. They know what they're doing.
Well, I think it's Kabuki theater.
It's not.
No, George. It's to keep the pitch fever up. Okay, and this justifies everything that big tech is doing. It justifies it. Okay, it's not rooted in law. Okay, I'd love to be proven wrong. Okay, but I've never.
I can cite constitutional scholars who say you can continue a trial after he has gone. The goal being to remove him and ensure that he cannot run again. That's it.
How do you guarantee he doesn't run again?
That's it. That's what's in the impeachment. An impeachment says you are removed from office and you don't run again. That's it.
Okay. Well, this is a new theory.
It says it it's in the Constitution. It's in the Constitution that the impeachment means you don't run again.
Okay, well then if that's true, then I agree. I've never heard of that before. Maybe just because we've never been there before. Okay.
Right. I mean, because that's what it's all really about. I mean, they know this election was a farce. That nobody wanted Biden, nobody wanted Harris. when you see the crowds that showed up for Trump, I mean, it's what happens in the third world when you have a very popular figure and the military, political, financial elite.
Oh, Lula.
This person like Lula, exactly.
Lula.
You don't want him to run again. You find some cockamamie team to prevent him from doing it.
Okay, granted, you're speaking about something that I've never heard of before, and I'm not discounting that it isn't. I'm giving you credence that it may be true because you're saying it, and I trust you. But there's one little wrinkle about this here. What about his base? Okay, well, I mean, does the Republican Party really want to play fire with his base at this pitched moment right now? Okay, at this pitch moment right now, you're going to, not only did you not help him while he was in office here, now you're going to stab him in the back in public with the help of all of his enemies, actually all of his enemies that hate his base. I'm sorry, we live in fanciful times, and maybe you're right, but I think that kind of political calculus is really, really dangerous.
Well, I think it is dangerous, and I think people are playing for high stakes right now. And Trump is clearly a unique figure in American politics. He's a unique figure in being able to generate this kind of support. I mean, the people who showed up, and look, these Congress people, they got frightened by what happened in DC. Not so much with the violence and so on. That was all nonsense. But they were frightened by this sudden. Who were these people? These weren't some. Some thugs and whatever.
Janitors, teachers, waiters, truck drivers.
They all were, devoted to Trump, and they are afraid. And I think this also ties in with why the sudden purge of the Capitol Police on the part of Congress, as well as Biden's and Harris's amazing statements about, well, if these were black, the police would have been shooting and so on. They are afraid that many people in the police are secret Trump supporters. They want to purge those people. They are people.
I think most of the police force in Washington, D.C., I'm just guessing here, George, they're black, but I could be wrong on that one too. Okay.
Well, that may or may not be, but for instance,
I don't know.
The person who was the person was apparently killed during the melee. The one police officer, he's been described as a Trump supporter. So, I think that,
George, I just think that we shouldn't be pulled into this political theater here right now, because the way I look at it is that, and your theory is interesting and maybe even be valid. We have to see what plays out. But the way I look at it at this point in time is that they've got him on the ropes, and now they want to kick him to death. Okay, and they want to do it very, very publicly. I mean, it's from what I understand that Trump is keeping a very low profile for the rest of his administration. Okay, I think he's up at Camp David this weekend or something like that. And from Politico, take that for what it's worth. Plotting what he's going to do next.
So exactly what you said is right. Exactly. So why are they doing it? He's not doing anything about it. So why are they doing it? They're doing it because they know the moment he's gone, January the 21st, they begin this campaign to return to power.
What they want to do is, I think it's very, very interesting. They're trying to create the defining moment of his presidency. The defining moment is not that he destroyed the Bush dynasty. He demolished the Clinton dynasty. He totally outwitted half-wits in the Republican Party. They don't want him to be remembered for that. Okay, they don't want him to be remembered for challenging American foreign policy. What they want is his legacy be what happened on Capitol Hill, and all of the noise and the heat that they're generating as we speak right now. Right. They want to create their legacy, but see, there's a flaw. Let me finish. There's a flaw in that. Is that's not the legacy that his base has. They're going to say he got cheated, and then his own party turned on him. Well, in 2022, we're going to tell you what we think of the party. Okay,
exactly.
And that's why It's so interesting because you have totally different narratives in play here. The thing is, George, here, and then I'll shut up, is that these people that have been plotting against Trump for 5 years, because I'm including the campaign, have gotten it wrong every step of the way. I don't see why it's going to work this time. Go ahead.
Well, you are right. Why do they want to look? They know perfectly well that this sort of what happened on January the 6th. That by itself isn't going to become the legacy. News moves fast.
In their minds,
3 weeks, 2 months, people will have forgotten this. So therefore, they need something much more permanent, much more lasting, and that is to prevent him from coming back. So that's one part of it. So that part of it is, through the impeachment process. I'm not saying it's going to succeed, but we know that Mitch McConnell does not want Trump to come back. When you say he's base, McConnell doesn't care about the base.
The base doesn't care about McConnell either.
Exactly, but he won re-election. He'll be okay. He's got another 6 years to, by the time his term runs out, he'll be 84. Doubt whether he's going to run again. Not impossible, but doubt whether he'll run again. He doesn't care about the base. Romney doesn't care about that base. They've won elections before. They think they can win elections again. But while Trump is around, they're always in trouble. They're always being wrong-footed. They don't like being accosted at airports like Lindsey Graham was, like Mitt Romney was. As long as Trump is around, this is what's going to happen. But he's eliminated from the scene. And one part of it is he's impeached. He's prevented from running again. The other part is all of the various DOJ officials and attorney generals coming after him with all manner of criminal proceedings to tie him up and prevent him from coming again. That's what the goal is.
George,
Pelosi is not a stupid person. She's not.
Yes, she is. Yes, she is. She's a very stupid.
And I don't.
You know what I mean. You know what I mean.
She damaged Trump. I mean, there's no question. She pursued that impeachment. She damaged Trump. She's still there.
But her party got a bloody nose for it too. Also here,
okay.
George, there is a wild card.
The Democrats who are now riding high. They are riding high. They don't think that they got a bloody nose. You're right. They didn't do well in the November election. They're riding high, and the GOP is on the ropes. So that they are on the ropes. They're very defensive. They're on the ropes.
As usual, it's a self-inflicted wound and unforced error. But that's what Republicans mean. That's their definition here. We have a little wild card that it hasn't been played yet. And you and I have bantered about this before, and it's called the pardon, okay? And I've seen reports of Trump's list, and he's on it, okay? Right. And so were his kids, okay? Now, there's been a lot of talk about it, and we've discussed this before. As a result of the Nixon impeachment process, there's been reflection within the DOJ, some guidelines. They are guidelines. They're not the law. It is what the DOJ's position is. It's not the law. We have to make a distinction right here. And I have argued that he could get away with it. Now, as a result, you could get a Senate and a House, a bipartisan coalition on this one issue. Other than starting useless wars, they could say, a president can't pardon himself. It's in the Constitution. It's mentioned extensively in the Federalist Papers. I think it's pretty solid. Now, of course, anyone that pardons themselves, it's a stain, okay? But of course, it depends on what narrative you're on. He said, after what they did to him, they never let him get off the ground as administration. They stole the election from him, and then they tried to impeach him again. Okay, I mean, and so bravo. So they're going to say he deserved it. See, you have to get in the other guy's shoes. Okay, and of course, the liberal media was a coward, a liar, a cheat. He had to pardon himself. It depends on which side you're on.
No, I mean, I agree. I think he will pardon himself and everyone in his family, and he will probably pardon pretty much most of his close entourage. I mean, people who are close to him, who worked in the White House, probably people who worked in the cabinet. So it won't be just for himself, because that will look just too self-serving. But in other words, pretty much everybody in the administration will get a pardon. And I think yes, that will definitely happen. There will probably be legal challenges to it. You never know with the courts. I mean, the court, these judges, they're all politically partisan, and they will rule along partisan grounds. And
Okay, but there's a bizarre scenario out there, and I don't have an answer to it. Let's say he does pardon himself. I think it's in the cards now. I really do. Okay.
Yeah, I think so too. He has to, because
and so he pardons himself.
Jeopardy, so he needs to pardon himself.
He pardons himself. Okay, everyone's hair gets on fire. That'll last how many news cycles? Okay, and then there'll be a challenge to it. And then what Trump will say is that, how do you take it back? I'm not president anymore. I can't revoke my own pardon of myself. I mean, I don't know how he'll present it, or because he can't get on social media right now, but how it will be explained. But once the toothpaste is out of the tube, how do you get it back in? Of course, the Congress can revisit that issue as part of the Constitution. It can be litigated in the Supreme Court, but irrespective of what position they take, it's done.
Well, okay. It's done, but it depends on how the courts are going to rule. I mean, I don't think the courts are just going to sit there and say, oh, well, it's a done deal. Some judges might, but I can see some judges who would rule the other way and say, no, you can't do that. It's a nice constitutional issue.
I think Judge Bork, if Bork had ever made it to the Supreme Court, remember he said the intellectual, what did he call it, like buffet or something like that. I mean, I'm fascinated with this right now, but if it's after the fact, it's this kind of, well, get me a glass of wine and we can talk about it, because it doesn't really make any difference.
Why wouldn't it make any difference? I mean,
once he pardons himself, and it's not determined that it's unconstitutional, then he has it. Now, if you want to, if the Republicans and the Democrats, they all want to get themselves all up in a lather over the next few months, so the first half year of the Biden administration discussing if Trump should have pardoned himself or not, it's still a moot point.
But that's not the issue. The issue is whether the Supreme Court will rule whether it was constitutional or not. It may well be constitutional. I'm not a constitutional
George, if he signs it at 11:59 on January 20th.
I don't say, what does that got to do with it? I mean, it's still up to the Supreme Court to decide whether it was a constitutional or not. Now they may. I don't know how they'll decide, but I wouldn't put my money.
I just don't know what it would mean. Whatever they decide, what would it mean? Well, I don't know.
Well, that means he's not immune. That means he's not.
Yeah, but he's already. If it's not against the law, you can't do it retroactively.
No, but if the Supreme Court rules that it is unconstitutional for a president to pardon himself, I'm not saying they're going to do that. If they rule that, then Trump ceases to be immune from prosecution. That's what it would mean.
Yeah, but there will be no impeachment then. I mean,
the issue of the pardon pertains to whether the criminal prosecution that will take place after he's left office.
I'm not contesting that there. And you and I, and you were correct, as we were talking about Spiro Agnew, and he was being investigated and prosecuted for what he did while he was governor of Maryland. Now, I think he was still involved in this bribe taking as vice president. It doesn't matter for our conversation here. They went, they certainly had the goods on him for what he did as governor of Maryland. Now, if Trump pardons himself for his presidency, that's one thing. But if he still has legal issues in New York, the pardon doesn't cover that. Okay, they still can go after.
I am sure that if he does pardon himself, he will pardon himself for everything. He's not going to limit himself just to what.
That'll get sticky. That'll get really sticky.
No, I am quite sure because right. The various states' attorney generals are going after him for his pre-presidential activities. So he will want absolute immunity from everything.
I read it just a couple of days ago. I read the pardon that Ford gave Nixon. And if memory serves me correct, and I think it does at this moment here, it was everything, and all criminal acts, all acts, criminal or non-criminal, that he committed while president of the United States. It only covered right that there. Now, if Trump, I wouldn't be surprised, and I probably wouldn't even be against him pardoning himself for his presidency. But if he does it back to the date of birth, then I think a lot of people would say that's a bit specious. Okay, I mean, it's about this time period right now. But if he's going to do it with his financial dealings and real estate dealings in New York before he was president, that doesn't seem honest to me, and I don't think it would seem honest to a lot of other people.
No, he probably wouldn't, but he is in jeopardy because there are so many now essentially political attorney generals. These are all political hacks who are desperate to destroy him and will want to make sure that he devotes the remaining years of his life to fighting off all kinds of criminal prosecution. So that's where I think he's in peril, and I think he will indeed pardon himself for any and everything. Now, what happens then is, of course, when it's challenged.
You know what that'll do, George? If he pardons himself at 11:59 on January 20th, no one will know Joe Biden is president. Okay? Because everyone will be so absorbed into that story. We will be, because first of all, it's fascinating because we've never seen anything like this before. And of course, I started out with my first answer here. We're just getting to the politics of grievance, and that's going to remain lit in the most dramatic way. I don't want to see Joe Biden fail, but I don't want him to succeed. I don't want to see him succeed in the things that people are talking about.
I don't think we should feel either we want him to succeed or we want him to fail. I mean, this is a person who's pretty much failed in most things. By our lights, he has failed in most things throughout his political career. I mean, he's in many ways, he's just an absolutely dreadful political figure.
No one likes.
A successful Biden administration will not be an administration that I would particularly have a lot of time for. So I don't know that I particularly want him to succeed. But still, going back to the original subject, which is that there are powerful forces afoot now. And I mean, this is right now, it's the day's only getting started in the United States, on the East Coast of the United States. Let's watch what happens this weekend. We'll see whether a momentum builds towards removing and impeaching Trump. Maybe it won't, but yesterday was a pretty dramatic day, and it's clear that there is the political establishment is very, very afraid of him. It's never happened before that somebody loses an election and then gets a massive crowd to support him. Imagine, Biden saying, "Hey, I want 500,000 people to show up in Washington to support me." You get a dozen. It is a.
We could say, Joe, we could get you ballots.
Yeah.
We can't get you people.
That's it. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you'd have to offer everybody a free color television or something. Color television, a washing machine, dishwasher. Then show up.
Lottery tickets.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah, I mean, under more normal circumstances, an outgoing president, the only stories that you'd be hearing is the big moving trucks and
right.
the new residents and how the new first lady's picking out the drapes and all that, but not with Trump. No way. Okay. As we speak, I'm in Moscow. This is January 9th. Right now it is 4:36 in the afternoon. It's dark and cold. It's winter here. I'm going to stand with my position. I'm putting a timestamp on this here. I think it's still, because it's so late in the game. If this were this time exactly last year, let's say it was January 6th, 2020, and something like this happened, I think that there would be forces enough and time enough to have a successful impeachment. But with just 11 days, and I guess our fundamental disagreement here is how the Republican Party is going to react to this. As I've said, you and I have said since we started the gaggle, the Republican Party basically wants nothing to do with Trump. That has always been the case with 6 or 7 people on cable. It makes it look like the GOP is waving the flag. No, it's actually been pricking him in the back the whole time. So I don't think it'll get any traction. I think what
it'll get traction. They may not have the votes. It'll get.
Well, no, sure, traction in the sense of a narrative. Yeah, I mean, you think Nancy Pelosi's riding high right now, but this is all virtue signaling. It is trying to take, hang
No,
on here. It's trying to take all
much
the
more than
oxygen
much,
out
much
of,
more than that.
hang on here.
Virtue
Trying to take
signal-
out all the oxygen out of Trump's presidency in the waning days. I think that's what they want to do here, because I don't think they just don't have enough time to go through it all. And I don't think you would get it in the Senate. Like I said, McConnell is a real creepy guy. Okay, he really personifies the old Republican guard. But I think with his scheduling abilities, he just wouldn't schedule a vote.
Well,
Just,
first of all,
you've run out of time.
as I say, I don't think the time issue is so important. But we've already talked about that. There's no point in rehashing that. McConnell and the Republican senators know one thing: Trump leaves on January the 20th, and what does he do? He launches his campaign to return in 2024 and attacks them. They're going to be attacked day after day after day for having sold him out, for having betrayed the American people, betrayed the American workers, all of that. They're going to get a drumbeat of that. They don't want to hear that. They want to see Trump humiliated, crushed, excised from American life. And this provides them with an opportunity to do so. I'm not saying that this will happen. I'm just saying that this is not something we should just simply dismiss and say, oh, it's not going to, it's impossible. There are powerful forces here at play, and there are many serious people involved. It's not a joke.
I have never said it's impossible. I've never said that, and I essentially agree with the kernel of your thesis here. I just don't think that, given everything that's going on, I think that they're going to fall back on political theater, humiliate him on the way out. I mean, I'm sure all of the CNN and MSNBC will show the last flight of Air Force One going to Mar-a-Lago, and they'll be playing a swan song in the background and good riddance and all of that. It depends. I'm not saying you're wrong, George, but over the next 1 or 2 days. Okay, today's Saturday, so let's see what happens in the first couple of days of next week, and it could my thesis or your thesis could take be put into full gear.
Well,
okay?
that's the thing. I think we need to follow what happens today and see if momentum is building, because these Republicans, they're very cowardly people, and they could easily just simply be bullied and badgered by the people they really respect, which is the New York Times editorial board, the Washington Post editorial board, CNN, and so on. So, they're a very spineless lot. And so, we'll see what happens. Maybe by Monday already the momentum will have dissipated. Okay. But my feeling is that the Republicans and the Democrats, the political establishment, is terrified of a Trump return. And what they need above all else is to make sure he doesn't come back. Because there's a big difference. If you've actually ensured that he doesn't come back, he's no longer a political force. Yes, there will be disgruntled Trump supporters, and they will make their feelings heard, but there's nothing much they can do, because Trump himself cannot run again. Trump's power will derive from his ability to run again, ability and willingness to run again. That's what they want to take away.
Yeah, we'll see where it goes. I mean, since we're going down these fanciful paths here, another scenario, this weekend, he pardons himself and resigns. Okay?
Possible. No, not impossible.
Oh, and considering what's been going on, George, it's not impossible at all. Right. And one thing I just want as a parting comment here, I'm really sick and tired of the media talking about an insurrection that happened on Capitol Hill. That is ridiculous. A coup. I mean, all I have to do is these talking heads on TV, whatever diploma you have, you should return it and demand your money back, because you don't even know what these words mean, okay? A coup happens within a state. Okay, when you have state forces like the military or the intelligence community, they observe the power of the leader, of the president or prime minister or whatever it is. Okay, just don't use that word. Okay, insurrection. Who were the leaders? What were their demands? Why did they just leave? Okay. I mean, this is so irresponsible of the media and certain political figures to throw these words around when they don't even know what they mean, and they certainly don't apply. I'm willing to say, yeah, it was a gathering that got out of hand and turned into a riot. I can live with that, but that's not threatening the state. Okay.
Right.
What did they want to do? Did they want to govern? Was that their aim? We had there's no inkling of that whatsoever. Did someone say, I am now Speaker of the House, or I am now President of the Senate, and I'm going to convene my delegates and states? None of that happened. The people that are reporting the story are willfully ignorant, okay, and mean-spirited and bad actors, okay? Now, having said all that, people that were committing violence and destroying property, federal property, and if you can identify them, then I say that you should pursue legal procedures against them. I have nothing against that. I wish you get all the Black Lives Matter people too over the summer, and all the Antifa people.
And in addition to that, the cop who shot an unarmed woman at point blank when there was absolutely no threat to anybody's life, let's hope he gets prosecuted as well, because there appears to be not the slightest justification for shooting at somebody.
Well, you know what they did? You know what they've done? The shaming of this woman. See, it's really interesting. We don't even, I have to look up. I don't have her name in my mind. It's really interesting. Why is that? George Floyd, everybody knows, okay? But here's a woman that was she was a QAnon person. That's what she was crazy. And her Facebook page had all of these conspiracies on. Does that justify her murder?
Yes.
No, it doesn't. Okay, does that mean she has an opinion you don't like, so her life means less? Shame on anyone that says that kind of thing, okay?
And again, no, you're right. And imagine if it was the other way around. Imagine if this was an Antifa person, Antifa woman, and who was also shot point blank by the police. And then we find out that she's a 14-year U.S. Air Force veteran, and so on. This would be round the clock media coverage about the horror of this patriotic woman who has served her country for 14 years. She did tours of duty in Iraq and Afghanistan, and she is shot dead for nothing more than peacefully protesting. You can see Chris Wallace choking back his tears, Rachel Maddow, breaking down on the set. How can you shoot a 14-year veteran? I mean,
but she was a Trump supporter, so somehow she
the hell with her. She just
Steve Scalise. Remember when he was shot on the baseball? Oh, but he was associated with white supremacists, and kind of understandable. It really is mind-boggling. These people, what bothers me is that they're just so stupid. Okay, and they just go along to get along. Nobody thinks for themselves here. That's why we do what we do here.
Right.
So, George, this has been a fascinating discussion. I mean,
it is. Yeah.
There's a real competition going on here. We're going to see where it goes, and I'm going to keep tabs. I know you will.
Okay, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, you may well be right.
So can you? Okay.
Yeah, we'll see. Anyway, good. Very interesting discussion. We will, of course, as always, be maintaining our laser-like focus on events in Washington. And remember, if you like the gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye.